with him on fraternizing with the cast. I'm going to ask, Michelle, can you pull up Defendant's Exhibit 188, please?
Your Honor, I'm going to object on hearsay.
Your Honor, I'm going to, let's pull up 188A. I've redacted everything but what Mr. Depp says.
All right, let me
On
just take a look
188A.
at 188A.
And submission against interest. Do you have that? You don't have it? Give that a minute. While they're working on that, can you tell us what transpired between you and Mr. Depp when you wanted to do something with a cast member?
So, as I said, he came to London for his own work and also dropped me off in London where I had to be for a few months to film this movie. And he asked me to marry him. He brought my best friends and my dad out. They left. And shortly after they left, my co-star, one of my co-stars, invited me to go to a concert with him and some of the cast to kind of break the ice, and I'd be working with them for the next few months. And I had already, I already knew I couldn't be photographed, even if it was platonic. I couldn't be photographed with men or women that other people could possibly spin as romantic. I had learned that but in January, the hard way. So I asked him permission if I could go to this concert with the cast. And I said, Johnny, that he's my co-star.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
Don't tell us what the co-star said. Just tell us what your communication was with Mr. Depp.
Objection, hearsay. Her communications are hearsay.
I'll sustain the objection.
I'm not sure I understand.
If you want to approach this.
Yes.
That if I accepted the invitation and went out to a concert, that the engagement would be off, that the relationship would be off, and that I was foolish, naive, for thinking that people could invite me to a concert in a platonic way. I tried to say that it was fine.
Objection, hearsay.
She's testifying about what Mr. Depp said. I don't understand.
All right, I'll overrule that objection.
Please continue.
Yeah, he said I was foolish and naive, that no one could invite me to. How could I be so dumb to think that somebody could just invite me to a concert? Why would they want to hang out with me? Obviously, it was because they wanted more from me, and that I probably wanted more too. You know, I was basically asking for it. You're going to go backstage. What are you going to say to the band? And then I know how this plays out, and who's this, you know, who's the other girl going to be there? And how could you be so stupid? How could you be so foolish? You're more naive. You should be smarter than this. And I apologized. I stayed, I mean, that whole evening, I think for a few hours, I spent on the phone with him, texting, calling, or talking, hanging up. He'd hang up on me, be upset, and then send me cryptic messages about my foolishness. And, you know, I'm already doing a movie where I play this, you know, character when I, you know, where I was empowered. Like, I read the script and I thought this character was empowered sexually. And by the time I got Johnny's feedback on it, I had been convinced that actually I was just being used, that I was just being used. It was clear that that was all I had to offer, and I was too foolish to see it. And I had
Amber, I'm just going to stop you right there because I'd like you to take a look at Defendant's Exhibit 188A. Is that in front of you? Do you recognize this portion of the text chain between you and Mr. Depp?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and this is on September 9, 2013?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and are these statements Mr. Depp made to you during that evening that you just described to the jury?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move the admission of Defendant's 188A.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, 188A in evidence as redacted. Do I have that redaction, or is that something you need to give me?
I think we're going to need to give it to you
Okay.
hard copy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your
Appreciate
Honor. And if
You can publish.
I can draw your attention to it, he first says, I don't want to make anything an issue, baby, but I literally have been on the ground just 14 fucking hours from leaving your side. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then he says, you know what I want, who I am, and where I want to go with us. You know very well what type of fucking man I am, and yet you lay a gauntlet before me that you know is the very species of danger that will always attract me into a very tempting test. What's behind that door? Almost impossible to, I think he meant not take you on. You want me to roll the dice? This sounds more like an aggravated ultimatum than soft words that could help us make both feel better. Don't test me, please. Did he tell you that?
Yes, he
And
did.
what did you understand that to mean?
It was clear. It was a threat that if I wanted to be.
Objection, speculation.
I think she can say what she understood it to mean.
I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. All right. Let's move on then to the filming of Mordecai with Mr. Bettany in October, November 2013. Where did that take place?
In London.
Okay. And what, if any, involvement did you have? Were you there for any part of that filming?
For part of it, I happened to be in London already for the film I was just telling you about. And Johnny came to London shortly after to film his own movies. He did the smaller, I think it was a smaller role in Into the Woods, and then he was filming Mordecai after that. So after I finished my movie, I moved in with him into his house in London, a rented house in London.
Okay. And describe your experiences during that time period with Mr. Depp.
It was really touch and go. He was filming with Paul Bettany, and there were days when he wouldn't come home, or they couldn't get him up out of on set. He'd be asleep in his trailer, sleeping whatever he'd done the night before off. I remember he missed a few days of work that way. It struck me because in my experience in our job, you don't miss work. It doesn't matter how sick you are, you go. You know, it's millions of dollars every single day they're filming, and I had not experienced someone who could effectively just control the set like that, you know, I mean, to that extent. And one day he didn't come home, and I was worried sick. I found out that he was in a hotel room with Paul Bettany.
Objection, hearsay.
Okay. Move forward, because.
When he came home, they had to carry him home.
Objection, hearsay.
Did you see them
I
carry
watched
him?
it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, please continue.
I watched. Actually, I was shocked that he could do it. One of the security guards carried Johnny like a baby into the house, and I looked at that, and I mean, his boots were hanging over the security guard's arm, who had to negotiate getting through the doorway, carrying Johnny like this. And I watched this. His assistants and the other security guards shaking their head, you know, just shaking their head, acknowledging this is how bad it is. And I remember thinking, this has got to be it. Like, this has got to change. This is it. And he was understandably very, very sick for at least 2 days, is my recollection. And in that 2 days, I had a lot of conversations with this team. I won't say what they were, but I felt at that juncture very encouraged that everybody and myself were on the same page. And I felt encouraged that we were in a new chapter, that Johnny had finally hit rock bottom, and finally he felt like changing for good. And I felt buoyed, you know, supported by these conversations I was having with people that he was close to, that he trusted.
November 2013, did you have any contact with Lily Rose that led to any discussions with Mr. Depp?
Objection, leading.
What, if any, communications did you have with Lily Rose in November 2013?
Objection, calls for hearsay, leading.
I'm asking what her connection was. I didn't ask what she
I'm
said.
going to sustain the objection if you want.
Okay. November 2013, what, if any, interaction did you have with Lily Rose without saying anything she said?
Objection, hearsay.
It's interaction, Your Honor. I'm not asking for what she said.
If you can lay a foundation out.
Okay. Did there come a time in November 2013 that you saw Lily Rose?
Yes, they came to stay with us for some time in the winter. Yeah, around November, I believe, 2013.
When you said they, who were you referring to?
Johnny's kids, Jack and Lily Rose.
All right. And what?
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no.